I am Ahmad Kabbani, and this is the Lighthouse for today's viewers. Welcome to our show. As one word, as an educational organization, we have our show as the Lighthouse for today's viewers, also as an educational show for our viewers. So many times we bring topics our viewers doesn't know anything about it. Today, I have an interesting topic, and we will be at Access the first who will talk about it. It's a book will explain the Quran. Who does that? Our guest. Let's introduce our guest, then we will talk about the topic. Ahla wa sahla. Welcome to our show, and will you please introduce yourself to our viewers?
Sure. Thank you for having me first. My name is Ahmad Ereiqat. I'm a Palestinian. I was born in Kuwait and lived all my life there and until the Iraqi invasion. After that, we were evacuated with the American hostages out of Kuwait to the United States because my children were U.S. citizens. Since I arrived to the States, I worked with so many different, several companies and with the government agencies. And every time I open my mouth, people will ask me, where are you from? And once they know my background, my heritage, they'll start asking me about, religion. So I discovered that there's a great need for, to understand. People wanted to know what Islam is all about. How is it? What's the relation between Islam and other religions? So I thought I've been thinking about this book for so long. I wanted to find a way to introduce this, so I came up with this idea about this book.
What is your background as education and work?
Okay, my undergrad is architecture engineering, and I have a law degree, Juris Doctor in law, from JFK University in California.
And where did you work?
I worked in many countries. I worked in Kuwait, I worked in Qatar, in Saudi Arabia, in United Arab Emirates, and I also worked here in California. I worked for several construction and project management companies, and I worked for the city of West Sacramento for some time. And here I am now.
Are you retired or still working?
No, I took time off to write the book. Like I said, I've been thinking about, finding a better way to introduce the Quran. The Quran is a very difficult book to read and understand. And I've been thinking about this for so long. So I was working on the outline for like several years now. So once I was finished with the outline, I decided that, okay, I want to take some time off now to put this together and do the translation so I can, present the book in a good way.
So you'll have it in 2 languages?
Initially, the book was in 2 languages. But adding the Arabic language to it, I thought would make the book very thick and, and people might say, what's this gibberish, who doesn't read Arabic? So I decided to make it only in English right now. But the book was originally written in 2 languages, Arabic and English.
It's easier to have the English book by itself to give a chance to English readers to enjoy it by itself, not to be interrupted with the other language. And for the Arab reader, also Arabic reader, the same way.
True. My idea was to have the English and Arabic, the Arabic and English, is because there are a lot of people immigrants who came here who doesn't speak English, but their kids don't speak Arabic. So I thought that will benefit them, so they can look at the Arabic thing and the Arabic verse and then see the English verse, so they and their kids can look at that. The other thing is that, if people say, where's this coming from? They can immediately see the original Arabic verse. But like I said, I spoke with my publisher, and then they suggested that, it's going to be too thick, it's going to cause maybe some confusion for non-Arabic speaking people. So we decided to come up with the English version right now.
How did you have the items and the chapters? How did you put the chapters?
That's a very good question. The Quran consists of...
Briefly. Later we will talk about details.
Sure. The Quran consists of 114 chapters. And every chapter is, can vary in length between 3 verses to like 286 verses. And it's very difficult to follow. So I decided that to come up with all these subjects that, are of interest to people right now in their daily life, marriage, work, like divorce, inheritance.
What is the Quran means to the people on earth? What does this book mean?
Muslims believe that the Quran is the word of Allah or God on earth.
And as a constitution,
it's there. Yeah, the Quran is full of rules. It's a way of life. It tells you what to do on almost every case in your life. How to deal with your parents, how to deal with your boss, how to deal with other people during war, when you have a treaty, when you borrow money. It's a way of life.
And what not to do?
Of course, what not to do.
Okay, so you have it as chapters.
Yeah, so like I said, it is the Quran is 114 chapters, and the subject might be discussed in verse number 20 in chapter 3, and then the continuation of that subject might be in chapter 15, verse 30. So unless you are very well familiar with the Quran itself, it will be very difficult for the first-time reader or people who have no idea about the Quran to follow and understand. They will think there's short sentences that doesn't make sense. So what I did is I reorganized all these verses in a way that it will make it look like the Bible. So now you can follow the story or follow the subject itself. So all the verses that are related to this subject are in this same location.
That will make it easy for the readers.
It will make it very easy for the reader if there's any subject you want to look into. So you go to the contents, just check the page, and then you go to that page, and all the verses that relates to that subject are there for you.
So I guess we have to tell our viewers that Quran, the whole Muslim in the whole world, no matter what are their languages, the mother language, they will read it with the pronunciation of the Arabic speakers, and the letters are Farsi, look like Arabic. But all the readers read it the same way, not to be translated from language to another. Make it difficult for sure because of the letters written with the voice of the reading in Arabic too. So when Mr. Ereiqat does that in English only, that means you will see the topic and you will understand the topic and read it in the same language, you understand it, make it easy to understand what is in it and why it is really, as a Muslim belief, it is the constitution on earth for the human being from God. And it is like government.
Yes, actually the Quran is in Arabic language, and it's very sophisticated language, and it's very tough and hard to read and understand for the majority of Arabs. So what I did here is I translated that into simple contemporary English, like modern English, and it's very easy now to read. Every time, when I was doing the translation, I consulted 17 other translations in the market. So I did not come up with this by myself. So I translated 17 English translations, and I combined, the best translation with my language skills and my Arabic skills to come up with the best interpretation of the verse, so I can convey the best interpretation to the reader. And I kept in mind that the English should be so easy that any person, even with an 8th grade education, can read and fully understand what is in this verse.
It will help the new generation of Muslim being out of their Arabic comfort zone, Arabic language. So
absolutely. I mean, when I was doing this, my own kids were in my mind, you know, in addition to all other people who have no idea about this, because, you know, my kids were born and raised in the United States, and they don't read and write Arabic as I do. And there's no way they can read the Quran in Arabic and understand it as I do. So this will help them at least figure out the message, understand the message in the Quran, and know what it is all about.
Besides, for sure, Jews, Christian,
of course, all
Muslim.
other people, yes.
We believe
anyone who is interested.
As Islam, you will not be a Muslim until you believe in
Absolutely.
Bible and Torah.
Absolutely.
So all together make the religion as Islam.
Absolutely. To be a Muslim, you have to believe in God, His angels, His prophets, including all the Jewish and the children of Israel prophets. You have to believe in Moses, Abraham. You have to believe in Jesus. We Muslims believe in the virgin birth. And actually, the Quran lists more miracles for Jesus than any other book. You know, there's several verses about Jesus and Mary in the book. Actually, the Quran lists the events that happened when Mary's mother gave her birth, which you don't find anywhere else.
The family.
I mean, when Mary's mother gave birth, you know what happened, how did she take her to the temple, you know. These stories are not anywhere else but in the Quran.
Is this the cover will be the same?
This is the same cover,
okay.
Yes. Yeah. But this is just a draft.
That's okay. At least we know how it look like.
Yes.
And when you have first edition, we will be the first to have first copy.
Of course.
And it will be chapter after the other. You explain it to me.
Okay. The purpose of this book is to make the Quran accessible to all people, regardless of their interest. You know, to make it's going to make it easy, clear, to understand.
Reading book.
Yes, it's accessible, because the Quran, as it stands right now, is not really accessible unless you know what you're reading. Okay. So what I did here is I made it started in chapters, starting with the creation of heaven and earth, and then creation of Adam and Eve and Cain and Abel, and then all the prophets like Noah, Abraham, Moses, you know, Solomon, David, Jonah, Elijah.
All the
Samuel.
prophets have the name in.
Yes, so I
Quran.
had listed the name and how the Arabs say, like the name of Jonah, for instance. We call him Yunus in Arabic. In English, they call him Jonah. Abraham, we call him Ibrahim.
Yeah.
Okay, Moses, Musa.
With the language differences.
So I listed that so people can understand what's going on. And then about the verses about the messenger Muhammad himself. Then the 10 commandments in the Quran. Because the Quran also lists the 10 commandments.
The
in
basic
there.
rules
Yes.
from God
Yes.
for the whole world.
Yes, and then all the food and drink commandments, and then the sins and, you know, freeing mankind from all kinds of slavery commandments. All these commandments are there, you know, commandments about work, money, jihad, inheritance, family and social commandments. You know, the progression of God's message to mankind, and then paradise, hell, the angels, you know. There's a very interesting topic also here, which is the events of the Judgment Day. They are listed in the Quran based on universe events.
Okay.
You know, which is very interesting.
That will
to
be
read.
really interesting.
Yeah.
When we learn more after the break.
Okay.
So we'll have a break, be coming back.
watching The Lighthouse for today's viewers, brought to you by oneworldforyou.org.
Before the break, we noticed about details, little bit about the chapters in the Quran book as a book for reading from our guest. So today, right now, we will have little bit information about the most important topics in the book in details, little bit.
Okay, I just want to make clear that this is not the Quran. It is called a basic guide to understanding the Quran. So this is not the Quran. It can never be used as a substitute for the Quran. The idea here was to organize the verses from the Quran and organize it in a way that will give a clear idea to the unfamiliar reader with the Quran. So now if he or she are reading the Quran, the book, they will understand the message in the Quran. For example, the Prophet Moses. All the prophets in the Quran have very interesting stories. I would say this book will show the Christians and the Jewish people and all other people the common areas between the Islam and other religions, which is Christianity and Judaism. For instance, Moses, the story tells in the Quran how he was born, and then how when Pharaoh decided to kill, the children of Israel, the boys, and how his mother used to put him in a box and put him in the river, and then he'll go away. So one day she forgot to tie the box, so the water current took the box down the river to Pharaoh's palace. And then how the maids, found the box, but it was closed, so they couldn't open it. They took it to his wife, to Pharaoh's wife, and when she opened the box, she fell in love with the baby, and she asked Pharaoh to save the baby, so she will, because they were childless. And God inspired Moses not to suckle from any wet nurse in the palace. So the soldiers took him to the market to find a wet nurse for him, and they couldn't find anyone. So his sister came in, and she said, I will show you a family that will feed him, will nurse him. So they took him back. She took them to her home, where his mother was. And so the mother took Moses, and he started suckling from her. So Pharaoh's wife was very happy, and she paid the mother, Moses' mother, to take care of the baby, So that's how, God took care of Moses and his mother, and it's very interesting. And then how he grew up, and when he killed one Egyptian and ran away, and then he met this person who told him that in a different, maybe I don't know, the Quran doesn't state locations and doesn't state ages, except for Noah, who said that he lived about 950 years. But other than that, the Quran doesn't say anything about locations or ages of the prophets. So Moses went to this place where he met this other good person who had 2 daughters, and he married one of his daughters and worked for him like for 10 years. And then on his way back, while he was traveling at night, he saw this light. So he went to the light, and then God spoke with him and he told him that he wanted to give him the message. And Moses was carrying a staff, and God said, I want to send you with an evidence. And he asked him, what's that you're holding? He said, it's my staff. He said, what do you do with it? He said, I use it for my sheep and to do other stuff. He said, throw it. So once he threw it, it became a huge snake, And Moses got scared and ran away. And God called him, come back, you're safe, pick it up, we will bring it back to its condition, to original condition. And then he sent him to Pharaoh. And you know how the story goes. So many of these verses are in the Torah. That shows you the common areas between the Quran and Torah. So Muslims have to believe in the Torah, and they have to believe in the Bible. They have to believe in Moses. They have to believe in Jesus. So,
in any way, in certain areas, I guess there is a saying from God to Prophet Muhammad that I am giving you the chance to tell the stories about the past. It's
yeah, actually saying that
nothing new exactly. It is from the past, then you to continue.
yes, in other he's saying he's telling him to set the record straight. So he's telling him the true story, what really happened, you know. And the Quran, there's no material stuff, no money, no talk about money, like, you know, gather money. There's no sex, no people getting drunk, you know, nothing bad in the Quran.
Yeah. What is good for the body, what is good for the human, God rules.
Yes, but I mean the stories. In the stories, there's they don't. All the prophets are very noble people. They don't make mistakes. They don't get drunk. They, you know, in the Quran it shows all these prophets in a very noble and honor status. You know.
That's why they are prophets.
Yes, absolutely.
They don't do what God says don't do. That
yes,
means
absolutely.
they follow God's rules.
Yes.
Why they are prophets?
Yes, and
because they are pure, better than other.
Absolutely,
in a way.
yes, absolutely. And unfortunately, in the Quran, the beauty about the Quran that the language is so powerful that there are so many interpretations for the verses, and that's where all the confusion comes from. Because, you know, now people will depend on certain interpretations that people introduced 11, 12, 1300 years ago that, you know, might be not correct or something like this, but still people follow on that because, you know, unfortunately they're not trying to think outside the box to see what God really means with certain verses. Yeah. You know.
But we know supposedly the Quran and the rules in the Quran and the information in the Quran match or fit the needs for all ages, all times.
Yes, you'll be surprised how many rules. I mean, I showed this book to many of my American friends, and some of them were publishers. And one of them made a comment. He said, all these rules back in the 6th century, I mean, all kinds of rules. It's this whole book is about, I mean, more than 2/3 of this book are rules. And you will be amazed how many rules it's to show you what to do. That's why it's a way of life.
The way of good life.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
To me, I feel in America, the Constitution and the rules and the freedom and whatever we have it as a very successful country and very modern country and very have values more than other countries. Most of what they have, it is, you can read it in the book, and it is makes sense for us as foreigners came to America because the rules are something we know from Quran, most of it.
When I was in law school, we had to study the Constitution, and I was really amazed. I mean, back home, I had, like I said, I have a BSc in architecture engineering, and we don't, in the third world, people don't discuss the Constitution. It's only something that is tailored for the king or the president or whatever.
That's why we are far away from the president or the other.
So when I was in law school and we started reading the Constitution, or I started reading the Constitution, I was really amazed that all this information looked familiar to me. Most of it is in this book, in the Quran.
Yeah, because it's the rules for life.
Absolutely,
the good life, again, you know. And if you do wrong, you will get punished.
Absolutely,
and
yes.
That's the government.
Absolutely. I mean, the Quran is very nice. You'll find that God in the Quran is very kind, very merciful. There's not much talk about, you know, the killing or the hell or stuff like this. Actually, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, God, makes it easy to go to paradise than going to hell. I mean, He's so merciful that it is much more easier for people to go to paradise than going to hell.
How did you get that image?
From the verses in
You
the
told
Quran.
me about something.
There's like a math formula. God says, for every good deed you do, you get 10. You'll get
10 times.
10 times the same. Well, if you do one, or if you do bad deed, you'll get one. You'll be, accounted for one. So imagine if you do one good deed, that's 10. Let's say 10 points. Okay, to make it easy, 10 points. If you do one bad deed, that's 1 point. So for you to waive all the 10 points, you have to commit 11 bad deeds to waive that one good deed you did.
To lose it.
To lose it. So you have to work hard to commit all these bad deeds to waive all the good deeds or whatever good deeds you did. So God makes it easy for people to go to paradise than hell. And it doesn't take much.
Indirect telling you, do good, because good will be 10 times for you, credit,
Yes.
and easy way.
Yes, so it's amazing. I mean, of course, there's the reward, there's the punishment. If you say, okay, I don't want to believe in this. We're talking about people who believe and who do good stuff. But you can say, okay, I'm not a believer, but then I will do good.
Whatever,
It's not gonna work. You have to believe. Okay, and you have to believe in the Quran, you have to believe in the Quran, you have to believe in the Bible, and you have to believe in the Torah, not just the Quran. You have to believe they all come from, for us, for Muslims, all these three books come from the same source. Allah in Arabic means God. But the difference between God and Allah in the language use is that in English you can say Godfather. But Allah in Arabic, you can't say Allah or use it for anything else. It's only for God. That's the power of the language, you see. While God can be, associated with other stuff. It can be in the English language. In the Arabic, you cannot. The word Allah can be only used for God, only. It's not a different person or different entity or different power. It's the same. Okay.
That's really... it is a book, and I believe the minute it's published, people will like to read it, then they will think about what is in it or how they feel about it. You will make it easy for them to understand what is in Quran, which is a big step for huge people want to know about how they think, those Muslims. How they think,
absolutely,
why they go for bad things, why they are terrorists, why they are. At least explain what is in it for Islam to be known this way or that way, or to have better idea about religion in general and people around them.
True.
It is a tool.
The new concept in this book is that, what I did is, like I said, I reorganized all these verses about the subject in the same place, and I don't put my opinion. I'm not imposing myself or any opinion or any scholar's opinions. I'm just bringing the verse itself and doing the interpretation for that verse. So it's up to the reader to think what they want to think about the verse. They can read the verse and think whatever they want to think. This book is not meant to convert people. It's not meant to convince people. It's only to show people what is actually in the Quran, with no opinion from outside. It's between you and the word itself, directly.
That's the best part of it.
Yes.
Actually, you did a great job.
Thank you.
It is, there is a bad need for this kind of information, and it might be good for libraries also.
Absolutely, yes.
And I'm looking forward to have it published, to be able to give it as a gift even for people,
Inshallah,
especially with sometimes closed mind in Muslim area, to read at least something, let them think different, accept the rules in different way. On behalf of really, I enjoyed what I heard about, and for sure my viewers will have a good idea when it is published. And on behalf of my viewers, I would like to thank you for coming to our show and give us this information.
Thank you again for having me. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And for you, my viewers, it's an idea to bring you something for education, to know about it, and it might help you to understand that kind of book, which is billions of people believe in, at least to know what is in it for humanity. And I'm sure that you will find similarity, as our guest said. And from now until the book will be out for sale, I thank you for watching, and I will bring the book to you somehow, sometime. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.